What if I told you there's a 29-year-old Swiss forward who just put up career numbers, costs a fraction of what most stars demand, and might be exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs need to break their decades-long playoff nightmare? While everyone's focused on the big-name free agents this summer, there's a quietly brilliant centerman who could be the difference between another first-round exit and genuine playoff success. His name is Pius Suter, and he might just be the most underrated solution to Toronto's most persistent problem. The Maple Leafs' annual heartbreak formula lets be brutally honest about what we witnessed this past playoff season. The Toronto Maple Leafs, once again, found themselves on the wrong end of a devastating series conclusion, getting absolutely demolished in Games 5 and 7. It wasn't just a loss, it was a systematic breakdown that exposed every weakness this franchise has carried for years. Brad Treliving, Toronto's general manager, didn't sugarcoat the situation when he addressed the media following their elimination. His words cut straight to the heart of the matter. We have to find a way to push through at the most critical moments. That phrase, critical moments, has haunted this franchise like a ghost that refuses to be exorcised. The Maple Leafs have built a reputation for beautiful regular season performances followed by spectacular playoff collapses. They've become a basketball team that shoots lights out in practice, but can't make a free throw when the game's on the line. Treliving knows this, which is why he's calling for what he terms a DNA change, not necessarily in personnel, but in mentality and approach. You gotta find a way to embrace that moment and ultimately succeed in it, Treliving emphasized. The margins are really thin, and when I say that, I don't believe you have to go and change 20 players. It's not always about that. It's what can we do to help our guys? What can we do to find guys that can help? Enter Pius Suter. The breakout star nobody's talking about this is where Pius Suter enters the conversation, and frankly, it's about time someone started paying attention to what this player accomplished last season. The former Vancouver Canucks forward didn't just have a good year. He had a career-defining breakout that should have every NHL general manager taking notice. In 81 games this past season, Suter recorded 25 goals and 21 assists for 46 points. Those aren't just solid numbers, they represent a quantum leap forward for a player who has steadily improved throughout his NHL career. For context, this undrafted Swiss forward has compiled 82 goals and 80 assists for 162 points across 364 NHL games, showing consistent growth and adaptability. NHL analyst Spencer Lazare of the Hockey Writers perfectly captured why Suter should be on Toronto's radar. If Suter can continue to score 45 to 50 points per season, it would prove to be a very good pickup for Treliving and the Maple Leafs. That production from a third-line center would transform Toronto's depth scoring, addressing one of their most glaring weaknesses. What makes Suter particularly intriguing is his timing. At 29 years old, he's entering his prime years with the experience to handle pressure situations, exactly what the Maple Leafs desperately need. He's not a young player who might wilt under playoff pressure, nor is he an aging veteran whose best days are behind him. He's right in that sweet spot where skill meets experience. The perfect fit for Toronto's needs the Maple Leafs' need for third-line center depth isn't just about filling a roster spot. It's about finding someone who can contribute meaningfully when the games matter most. Toronto's bottom six forward group has been a consistent weakness, failing to provide the secondary scoring and defensive responsibility necessary for playoff success. Suter addresses multiple needs simultaneously. His 25-goal campaign demonstrates he can finish around the net. His playmaking ability, 21 assists, shows he can create for teammates, and his overall point production proves he can contribute consistently over a full season. For a team that has struggled to get meaningful offensive contributions from their depth players, Suter could be transformational. The financial aspect makes this even more appealing. Coming off a 2-year, $3.2 million deal, Suter is due for a raise, but he's not going to command the massive contracts that often handcuff franchises. NHL insider Frank Saravalli projects a 4-year deal worth $5 million per season, which might seem high at first glance, but represents excellent value in today's NHL salary cap environment. With Toronto sitting on just over $25.7 million in cap space, they have the flexibility to make this type of signing without sacrificing other areas of need. It's the kind of calculated risk that could pay enormous dividends if Suter maintains or even improves upon his career year performance. The market value reality check: Frank Saravalli's projection of $5 million per season might initially seem steep, but context is everything in today's NHL. The salary cap is increasing, career year performances command premium prices, and depth scoring has become increasingly valuable as teams realize that playoff success often comes down to who can contribute beyond their top six forwards. Consider what teams are paying for similar production. Centers who can provide 40 to 50 points annually while playing responsible two-way hockey are not plentiful, and they don't hit free agency often. When they do, smart teams recognize the opportunity and act decisively. Saravalli ranked Suter as the 19th best available free agent, which might actually undervalue his potential impact. Sometimes the best signings aren't the biggest names. They're the players who provide exactly what your team needs at a price that allows for continued roster flexibility. The 4-year term also makes sense from both perspectives. Suter gets security and a significant raise from his previous deal, while Toronto gets his prime years without committing to a contract that could become problematic as he ages. It's the type of deal that benefits both parties while addressing genuine needs. Breaking the playoff DNA, what makes Suter particularly appealing for Toronto isn't just his individual production, it's how he could change the team's playoff DNA. The Maple Leafs have consistently struggled with depth scoring when the games matter most. Their top players often perform adequately, but the supporting cast disappears when the pressure mounts. Adding a legitimate threat from the third line could force opposing teams to adjust their defensive schemes. Instead of being able to shut down Toronto's top two lines and coast against the bottom six, teams would need to account for real scoring threats throughout the lineup. This depth could be the difference between early elimination and genuine playoff runs. Suter's playoff experience, while limited, includes meaningful games with Vancouver where he demonstrated the ability to maintain his production under pressure. For a Toronto team that needs players who won't shrink in critical moments, this experience could prove invaluable. The Swiss Army knife factor: what makes Suter even more valuable is his versatility. He's not just a center. He can play wing when needed, he kills penalties, and he brings the kind of professional approach that championship teams require. These intangible qualities often don't show up in statistics, but become crucial during playoff runs. His international experience with Switzerland has given him exposure to high-pressure situations and different playing styles. This worldliness could bring a calming influence to a Toronto locker room that has been prone to tension during playoff battles. The fact that he's undrafted also speaks to his character and work ethic. Players who make it to the NHL without being drafted often possess an extra drive and determination that can be contagious within a team environment. The championship equation: ultimately, the question facing the Maple Leafs isn't whether they can find a third-line center, it's whether they can find the right third-line center who contributes to changing their playoff culture. Suter represents an opportunity to add not just skill, but character and experience at a reasonable price point. His breakout season wasn't a fluke built on unsustainable shooting percentages or favorable circumstances. It was the culmination of steady improvement and increased opportunity, suggesting that his production could be maintained or even improved in the right system. For a Toronto franchise desperate to prove they can succeed when it matters most, Suter could be exactly the type of under-the-radar addition that makes the difference. Sometimes championship pieces don't come with fanfare. They come with consistent production, professional attitudes, and the ability to perform when the spotlight shines brightest. The Maple Leafs have tried the blockbuster approach. They've tried banking on their core stars. Maybe it's time to try building depth with players who have something to prove and the skill set to prove it when it counts. The time for action, with free agency approaching and teams positioning themselves for another playoff run, the Maple Leafs face a crucial decision point. They can continue pursuing headline-grabbing moves that might not address their fundamental issues, or they can make the smart, calculated additions that championship teams require. Pius Suter might not generate the same excitement as a superstar signing, but he could provide exactly what Toronto needs: reliable, consistent production from a player entering his prime years who understands what it takes to contribute to winning hockey. The question isn't whether Toronto should be interested in Suter, it's whether they'll act quickly enough to secure his services before another team recognizes his value and makes their move. Do you think Pius Suter could be the missing piece that finally helps the Maple Leafs break through their playoff struggles? Or are you skeptical that any single depth addition can change Toronto's playoff DNA? I'm really curious to hear your take on whether this type of under-the-radar signing is what the Leafs need, or if you think they should be swinging for bigger names. Drop your thoughts below, and let's debate whether smart depth moves beat flashy star acquisitions. And don't forget to like this video if you're as intrigued by this potential signing as I am.